After its absolute hype explosion in 2020, Ashes of Creation seemed to have slowly disappeared, or at least it did for most people that weren't actively searching for new information. Sure, there were some respikes of popularity with the Alpha 1 and now with the studio switching to Unreal Engine 5, but other than that, the hype seemed to have completely cooled off. In this video, I'll catch you up on Ashes of Creation's state and give you my predictions and impressions of the game's future. And at the end, I'll also explain the one thing that I think is the most important and overlooked game design feature in an MMORPG, and that is something Ashes of Creation will probably get right. Before we go into the deep and dirty of what's new, let's quickly explore the old. What is Ashes of Creation? Ashes of Creation is a fantasy MMORPG developed by an independent indie team called Intrigue Studio. The project is mostly financed by one man, and this man is Steven Sheriff. And in the world of Ashes, this man is the equivalent of what Notch was to Minecraft, a passionate individual that treats his game as his baby. And this alone gives me high hopes for Ashes. But let's move on. Ashes of Creation is an MMORPG that tries to mix all the most popular and adored feature of other MMOs into one game, but in the process innovating every one of these features and pushing the limits of what is possible. If they succeed, they might just evolve the whole MMORPG genre. In my opinion, the biggest strength in Ashes is the world Steven and his team is building. Ashes of Creation's world is stunning. Not only does it look good, but the world is built on lore. It's not just cool looking areas stuck together, but the world has its own story. Every node is built on its own lore and is lived in accordingly. This world has a past, and you will recognize this while traveling through it. The past of Ashes of Creation is set, but its future will be molded by its players. The world and the PvE evolves and reacts to the player's actions. Just because the world has a past doesn't mean the future is fixed too. No. We, the players, will shape the future of the map by simply playing and doing stuff. This effectively means that the world and its PvE will be ever-changing, giving it an almost infinite replayability. This seems almost too good to be true. I think I need another hit of copium.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Well, sadly, I'm all out of copium, so this next part will be less optimistic. Ashes of Creation wants to implement a mix of tap target and action combat, letting the players switch between both options. And even if I understand the reason behind this decision, I still feel very skeptical about this, because action combat and tap target are fundamentally different. Let's just take the example of my favorite class, the Ranger. Action combat requires the Ranger to aim at his target, where tap target just needs him to select his enemy and it will do the aiming for the player. Now, I love action combat, but why the fuck would I put myself at a disadvantage and select the action combat aiming instead of tap target? Also, having this tap target and action combat hybrid combined with their absolutely insane archetype class system that gives you 64 different class combinations, combined with the different races that each have different stats and their skill trees, giving you one set of passive skill, one set of active character skills, and one additional set of weapon skills. How the fuck are they going to balance all this? This is insane. Now, I'm not saying this is impossible. My scrambled brain just can't imagine a world where this could be balanced. But I know one thing. If they do manage to balance this, it will be the most complex class system I have ever seen, making character builds have an endless potential and variety. I was one of the idiots that bought the $500 Alpha 1 key pack to be able to play and test the game. And the Alpha 1 was interesting. Obviously, this was a very early build, so it was quite messy. Countless bugs like falling through the world, people hacking the game, giving everyone unlimited money, multiple server resets to counter all these bugs and hackers. It was a mess. But Even if we ignore the mechanical problems and look at the core of the game, there still are issues to be found. For one, my character feels completely out of place. It feels disconnected from the world. It felt a little bit like a bad Photoshop edit, where it kind of works, but it still looks pretty bad. Then we have the PvE. PvE looks nice, really cool concepts, and very good looking animations, but they just didn't feel alive. They felt way too mechanical. When I play a game, I don't want to feel like I'm playing a game. I want to feel immersed. I want to feel like I'm part of the world and get attached to its inhabitants and wildlife. The whole experience felt slightly off. Now, they definitely have time to refine all this, but for now, the game was seriously lacking in immersion, and the absolutely ridiculous Naruto running animation didn't help the immersion either. On the positive side of things, Intrepid Studio absolutely nailed the networking. The server stability was remarkable, and even with the servers being in NA and me living in the EU, I had a constant ping of 30, which was a very pleasant surprise. Now, while playing this alpha build, I was at first pretty disappointed that Big Daddy streamers like Asmongold got to fly around on flying mounts, but in the end, I still got my aerial exploration done.
In their tongue, he's Dovahkiin, Dragonborn.
Yes, the mounts and cosmetic crisis. Something that I also wanted to address in this video, because I feel like the most YouTubers and even Intrepid Studio are not bringing this point across well enough. This year, a lot of people got very upset about the huge amount of mounts, pets and cosmetics that were added and showcased for a game that isn't even in a beta state. This led a lot of people having doubts about Intrepid Studio, and I completely understand where these people are coming from and why they would get upset about this. But most people don't know or understand is that these mounts and pets will be part of the wildlife. It's not just mounts. These are the mobs we'll see and fight and tame in the world. So they are not working only on mounts, they are building the whole PvE scene, but showcasing these creatures as mounts. Same with the skins. The different skins will probably be the NPCs' outfits, with different nodes having different looking NPCs. Finally, let's talk about what I think is one of the most important topics in an MMORPG and in games in general, and that is the risk to reward ratio. To make it so I don't have to repeat this 1,000 of times, I named it the RRR concept, risk reward ratio. The RRR is the one thing responsible to make the players feel. It's what makes a player feel scared and excited. Scared to lose something, but excited for the reward. It's what at the end of the day makes players satisfied, which converts into returning players. The RRR is also what helps a game feeling less grindy, because the players are emotionally invested, making the experience almost addicting. Don't believe me? Let me prove it to you. Why is going to casinos and sitting in front of slot machines for hours on end looking at the exact same illustrations spin in circles so exciting and doesn't get boring? Well, because the casinos have perfected this RRR concept. Imagine you would be able to play slots for free, but there's no reward either. You would just get to spin the slots. Sounds boring, doesn't it? Another prime example closer to gaming would be loot boxes. But that's a topic for another day. Anyways, this is something a lot of MMORPGs get wrong. New World being a prime example, because there's minimal risk, which devalues the whole experience. Or with Mortal Online 2 being the opposite, the risks are too high and the reward too low for most players, leaving these players frustrated. Luckily, from what I heard, Intrigue Studio seems to have a very good understanding of how to balance this very sensitive ratio. I believe that the stakes in Ashes of Creation are going to be high enough to give emotional values to the player's actions, without getting him completely discouraged. Will Ashes of Creation succeed? Well, only time will tell, but the potential is huge, and let's just hope that they don't jinx it. By the way, at the moment, I'm very lucky to be able to read and reply to every comment. So tell me down below, what do you think? Will Ashes of Creation succeed or disappoint? And while you're down there, how about you click that shiny like button, huh? See you next time.